Hey guys, this is Dr. Dwayne Wood again, and I am back because we are talking again about this amazing book that I've been reading called The Entree MD Method. The Entree MD Method by Dr. Una. And if you watched the previous video, you know how excited I was. We did the unboxing, and then we did a kind of an overview of the first section of the book. Tonight we're going to get into the second part of this, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the second part and what she goes into the book. And let me just pop you over to this other screen so you can actually see. And so that's our book there, The Entree MD Method by Dr. Una. Once again, we're kind of doing a review of that. We did the first review or the first section of this book the last time, and now we're going to go in and talk about the second section. And this one has to do with really a change in the mindset, right? So a mindset makeover is, I guess, what I'm calling this section. If you read the book, it's titled, let's go back and see. So the section is titled Redesign Your Mind. So Redesign Your Mind is what she titled it. And I'm basically calling it a mindset makeover, right? And that's what she talks about in this book. And there are three different things that she goes into, right? We're going to go through them successively, just like she does in the book. And the first one has to do with one of these. It's a myth, if you will. And it comes because a lot of physicians believe that that's all they can do. Right? They believe, okay, I went to school, I trained as a physician, and that's the only thing I'm able to do. I can't do anything else. She actually gives it a little term there, one trick pony, right? They think that all they have is one trick. And there is a lot of reason for that, right? If you think about what you have to do to get into and through medical school, right? It was ground into us, right? That this is what we do. This is what we do. This is how we work. These are the things that we do as physicians, and there was no room for anything else. So by virtue of the training that we did, and even before that, a lot of us had this desire from the time we were young that we were going to be physicians. So that's what we wanted to do. We got into medical school, and medical school really kind of reinforced that for us. Okay. And we're going to talk about three different things that she goes into on how we can begin breaking that down. But those same things that we can use to break it down are the things that really kind of helped us to become solidified in what we did, right? So think about this. And the three things, I'm going to just read them out: acceptance, immersion, and accountability. Acceptance, immersion, and accountability. So if you think back to medical school and think back to residency for a lot of us, we were immersed in the trappings of medicine, right? From the time you got into medical school, everything that you did was with the intention of getting you to the end of medical school and training and into practice as a physician. So it's kind of like learning to speak another language, right? When you become immersed in that language, you learn it a lot faster, and everything now begins thinking that way. So if you were taking Spanish like I did in high school and college, and I still can't speak a lot of a lot of Spanish, but when I was doing it, right, I was in class, I went home, and everybody spoke English, and everything around me was English. And so the only time I really did it, right, was when I was doing homework or when I got back to school. And Dr. Ben, I'm sorry, that was my teacher. All right. So when I got back to school and I had to use it. But if I really wanted to learn how to speak Spanish, one of the fastest ways, one of the best ways to do that was for me to go to a place, a country, for example, where all they spoke was Spanish. So that the TV, the radio was Spanish. The signs were Spanish. When I tried to ask someone how to get some directions, it was in Spanish. If I was reading a book, it would be in Spanish. Guess what, guys? And gals, I would have learned Spanish so much faster, right? Because I was totally immersed in it. And in medical school and in residency and in fellowship, for those of you who went on to do fellowship, that's what happened. right? So we were there, and all we knew was we were going to be physicians. We're going to be doctors. There was no time for anything else other than, some of us when we when we took that break. Okay. So we were immersed in it. And the acceptance that she talks about, and we'll talk about this in how do we break that idea, but we accepted that that's how it was going to be. Right? There was no doubt in our minds that this is what medicine was like. This is how we trained. This is how the people before us trained. This is how we trained. And this was how the people after us were going to train. Of course, there have been some changes. That's a whole nother conversation. And then accountability, right? So everyone that was surrounding us, everyone that was there, the nurses, the medical school faculty, our senior residents, everyone, their job was to help us to be accountable for the things that we were doing, right? So that's why the senior was there, to teach us the things that we needed to do. That's why the attending was there, right? To help us work through the process of learning how to present, how to talk about a patient, how to give information, right? I remember I was down at UAB, and okay, guys, don't laugh at me, okay? I'm just telling on myself. And I remember I was presenting to one of the fellows. I think I was on thoracic surgery, and I would come in the morning, and it was my first rotation, right? And you had that, was it Maxwell's, the little book with the little binder and had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 pages or whatever, right? And in the book, right, it showed you how to present, for instance, a BMP, CBC, the order that the little the little hash marks that you put on the page. And I remember I was coming in, and I would create my own way of presenting, right? So one day I'd come in and I'd say the sodium, potassium, glucose, calcium, CO2. And the next day I would come in, I'd say BUN and glucose and calcium. And one day the fellow said, he said, Dr. Wood, I need to just stop. Okay, I want you to go and get Maxwell, and I want you to look at the way to present electrolytes, right? And yeah, so I finally learned to present electrolytes. Okay, if I hear that story again, I'm denying it. Okay, but that was it, right? So those guys that were there held us accountable for what we were doing. So as we are beginning now to think, and we're beginning to shift, and we want to say, okay, we want a better life. Remember, we're trying to practice medicine on our own terms. Everything in our training, everything in our thought process probably says to us, yeah, there's nothing else you can do. This is all you can do. This is all you were trained for. This is all you know. But I want you to think back to something. Think about the capacity that we have for learning skills. When you showed up in medical school, right, you were maybe a biology major or some other major, biochemistry, whatever major you were, right? And from the day you started medical school, you began learning new skills. Think about all the skills that you learned through medical school, right? And then think about all the skills you learned through residency. Think about all the skills you learned through fellowship. And then think about all the skills that you've learned, right, and you've acquired since then. So we have the capacity to learn things, tremendous amount of material, right? So we're not just one-trick ponies. So we can learn to be business people. We can learn to be in real estate. We could learn to do so many different things, but that mindset has to change. That mindset has to change. So how do we change that mindset? Number one, by acceptance, by realizing that we have the capacity to change, that we have the ability to begin learning new things. We have the brain power, right? We have the creativity, as I've mentioned before in the previous video, right? We have all of these tools, all the skills that are necessary for us to be successful in different areas. And now we're talking about, okay, how do we expand ourselves beyond just what medicine has to offer? And as I said before, it could be a practice. It could be so many different areas that we want to be in, right? And remember, you have the capacity and you have the ability to learn. Okay. And then the immersion, you got to begin immersing yourself in the areas that you want to change in, right? So if it's business, you got to learn business, guys and gals. If it's real estate, you got to learn real estate. You've got to be in the space where that information is. You got to begin listening to podcasts. You got to begin talking to people who are in that space. That's how we learn. That's how we become intelligent in those areas. That's how we become successful. One of the interesting things that points that she made in this book is something that changed in her mindset, right? In her mindset, she says that she read a book called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And in the book, he makes a statement. He says, all business skills are learnable. And I'd like to take that statement and I'd like to put it in everything. So all business skills are learnable. All technology skills are learnable. All creativity skills are learnable. All art skills are learnable. All right, and you can go down the list. Whatever it is, the thing that you have in your head, whatever it is that you think you would like to do, as you begin expanding yourself, it's learnable, and you've already shown that you have the capacity to learn. I love that. That's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. That's beautiful, right? And then, so we talked about the acceptance that you have the ability, right? You can do it, and you almost have the responsibility. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, right? As we get to the end, right? So immersion. So put yourself into the space, and then accountability. Do you know? Have you heard the term? And you probably have. See one, do one, teach one. You know what that is? That's accountability. That was the senior resident or the attending showing you how to do that procedure. And then you doing the procedure. And then you teaching the procedure. See one, do one, teach one. That's how we learn. And so the accountability that we need are people who are around us that have done it before, people that are around us that can shepherd us through whatever it is, people that are around us that hold us accountable, right? Because remember, as you were in medical school and as you were in residency, there were those checklists that you had to do, right? That's why we moved from rotation to rotation. That's why we had the senior resident and the attending, right? Because they were making sure that as we moved from those different areas, moved into those different procedures, moved into those different skills, moved into those different areas of expertise, that we were learning the material. And so that's what we need now as we are transitioning, as we are moving into a new space. We need people that are around us that have done it before, that can guide us, that can show us the right way of doing it. Now, can you do it by yourself? Sure. All right. You probably could have learned all those things in residency by yourself. How long would it have taken you if you didn't have the folks around you? Right? So acceptance that you can do it. You have the capacity. You have the ability. Immersion, surrounding yourself with that information, whether it's people, well, not just whether, people, information, audio books and videos and podcasts and YouTube videos and all those things that begins to help us get the information. And then finally, accountability. So important. Accountability is important. And that's why the coaching space is exploding. Because people are learning finally. Yeah, I can do it by myself, but it's so much better if I have somebody around me who can do it. Okay. So that's number one, right? That's number one. I'm only a one-trick pony, and that's not true. The second myth is that we've got to change is that there's the fear of failure. And most people, are afraid of failure. Now, this one is one that I love to talk about, because when we're born, when we show up in this world, guess what? We are fearless. right? Think about that baby. That baby is struggling to get out of the womb. And once the baby is out, the baby is grabbing at the stuff, putting stuff in their mouth, right? They're struggling. They want to lift their head. They want to roll over. They want to move, right? They want to start pulling themselves up. They want to start walking, right? I don't think I've ever seen a baby said, hey, boom, sit down and say, hey, I fell like 3-4 times. This is it. I'm not doing that anymore. But somehow, somewhere, we've learned, or we get the impression that because we failed at something, that we shouldn't try anything else, or we should give up on that thing, right? And then for years and years and years, we don't do anything new. So the fear of failure is not unique to us as physicians. It's universal, and we've got to break that. Now, what's unique to us as physicians is that we have been taught that you cannot fail. Right? Failure is not an option when it comes to medicine. I remember I was in medical school, and I'm telling you guys all my stories. I was in medical school, and Dr. Williams, I love Dr. Williams. He was my attending, and a patient came in. Remember, I'm an endocrinologist now, but medical school student back then. And I remember a patient came in. And the patient came in DKA. And so I went with the senior and, we wrote the orders and, the senior checked it over. And I went and I put the orders on the chart. And of course, I didn't sign the orders, right? And so I'm not even sure how the chart ended up where it was. But I got a call probably about 3-4 hours later. And it was a nurse, and they said, "Hey, this is what's going on. The patient is here." And I said, "Well, why is the blood sugar so high?" And they said, "Well, we didn't have orders." I said, "Yeah, we have orders." Actually, you know what? That's right. I didn't put the orders on the chart. That's what happened. I didn't put the orders on the chart. Right? So they said, "We don't have orders." And I said, "Yeah, we have orders." And so now as the medical students, I go running. And it turned out that in the little work area that we were in, the senior had signed the order and had given to me to put on the chart, and I didn't put it on the chart. So the nurse calls, "Hey, this patient blood sugar is high." And so we went back, and there were the orders. And so I quickly grabbed the orders and I took it over. And so we went through and we got it, and things worked out, right? But I remember standing in the hallway on rounds when my attending found out what happened. And do you know, to this day, right, when I go to the hospital, right, the very first thing that I do, right, is I grab that order sheet, right? I put the patient's name, the little name tag on the sheet. I write the orders, and I do not let go of that piece of paper. That all came from standing in the hallway at UAB. So we're taught, no, there's no failure. You can't fail, because if you fail, people's lives are at stake. And so we pick that up in medical school. We take that with us through residency. We take that with us through fellowship. And many of us are sitting in our offices even now. And a lot of what we do is because of fear, because we can't fail. We've got people's lives in our hands. And so when we attempt to take steps in the entrepreneurial area outside of medicine, we bring that same mentality with us. But when it comes to things outside of medicine, for instance, in business, Dr. Una says, one of the rules is fail fast. What did she say? Fail fast and fail often, I think is what it says. Dr. Una, sorry, I may be misquoting you. But that's the idea, guys, and gals. Get out there and try some things. Innovate. Be creative. If that doesn't work, try something else. And so we've got to get over that idea of perfection. And when we think of perfection, that means that sometimes we don't do things until it is perfect. But she suggests in the book that our thought should change a bit. So not perfection, but excellence. Because perfection says it has to be absolutely correct. And excellence says that it is the best that we have with the data that we have. So changing that mindset, okay? And then another fear in that same idea is the fear of success. Now, many of us went to medical school because we wanted to take care of people. We're a healing profession. We're a helping profession, right? And sometimes the fear may be that if we succeed, then that changes. That we become something other than the type of people, the type of person that we wanted to be when we decided to go to medical school. And here's the kicker, guys. Or here's the beauty of this. Success is not good or bad. Success just is success. What we do with it, how we use it, determines whether it's good or bad. And for most of us, the type of people that we are, success only helps those around us, helps our family, helps our community. Let me ask you a question. And I don't do this anymore. Like in my office, I don't talk to patients about money. You know why? Because we would never get paid. My team has told me, do not discuss money with patients. Because what happens, right? Patient comes in and says, hey, Dr. Wood, I'll get that payment to you tomorrow or next week, or I don't have it now. Or, can I do half a payment? Can I just see you today? And I'm like, yeah, come on in, right? Come on in, let's do it. You know that. And at some point, our practice manager said, look, Dr. Wood, if a patient has a concern, send them to me. Don't discuss it with them, right? Because you're not good at this. That's our heart. So success should only encourage us, because that allows us to do much more good if we're successful. If your practice grows, if you're financially independent and financially free, so that now you can practice medicine the way you want to practice. So that you can use the funds from the successful business, right, to do the things you want to do for your family, for your community, for your patients, so on and so forth. So there's no reason to be afraid of success. And then a big one, right? This is a huge one. And this is changing, once again, we're talking about changing mindset, right? As physicians, sometimes we believe that selling is wrong. And in general, a lot of people kind of feel uneasy when it comes to selling, right? They feel like almost they're doing something wrong, something bad. And you've probably had experiences. Dr. Una tells us the experience about her and her husband going to buy a car. and the salesman coming over to them and saying, hey, you want to get a car? Yes, we want to get a car. And taking them, say, hey, here's one for you. I think it was an SUV, a van that they went to buy. Okay, here's one for you. And saying to them, hey, come on, let's get everything, you know how it is, right? Let's get everything settled, and here's the price, and da-da-da. And they said, well, no, we want to look at a couple of others. Can we have your card? And the salesman would not give them the card, because he says that, usually people who don't buy now don't buy. So basically he was done with them because they didn't fit into his timetable. They couldn't do business with him. But all of that had to do with him. It had nothing to do with what they wanted, what they needed. He just wanted to win. And so if selling is one-sided, it creates that feeling, because the other side feels, I didn't really get what I wanted. But if selling is a win-win, that's beautiful, because I win and you win. In medicine, can you imagine what happens in a typical interaction with patient-physician? We have a service. The service is to help the patient to be better. There is value to that service. There's value to the things that we're doing with that patient. And so if the patient is able to get better, there is a value to that. And providing that is of benefit. And so the win-win there, guys, gals, is that patient provides funds, we provide care. That's a win-win. There is no ickiness, there's no badness there. And so the same idea is that we can do other things that bring value, that bring benefit, that allows both parties to be on the winning side. And if we can do that, that is beautiful. And that's when selling is at its highest, it's at its best. When we create a situation where we provide value, and the patient wins and we win. Right now, many of you don't even know the fact, or not aware of the fact, that somebody's selling on your behalf. It's called advertising. Right? Patient shows up. Hey, how did you get here? Oh, I saw the ad. Oh, I saw the billboard. Oh, I saw the whatever. Right? And they're coming because there is some value that your office, you are providing. And they give money for that. And that's beautiful. It's wonderful. And if we can connect the win-win, if we can connect the selling to the solution, then there's no reason for it to be icky. So this entire section that she went into, this mindset makeover, some of these are the reasons that we as physicians don't succeed. Because we have this idea that that's all we can do. We can just be in medicine. And I'm here to tell you, no. She says in the book, that's not true. You can be successful in business. You can be successful in other areas. We have a fear of failure. And that comes by virtue of our training. But in other areas, it's okay to fail. We don't want to fail. Let me say that, right? We don't just go out and fail. We don't want to, but it's okay to fail. And when you fail, you learn. In medicine, no, you can't like say, okay, I'm going to have, try this thing and let this fail so I could learn for the next patient. You don't do that. We can't do that. But in other areas, in our entrepreneurial activities, sure. If it didn't work, we just try something else. The fear of success. We have good hearts, guys and gals. We have good hearts. That's a big reason why we're in medicine. And then finally, selling connected to the solution. Find a win-win for both sides. And you'll find it doesn't feel that bad. So I'm continuing to read this book. I'm excited to get into the next section. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about this. Right? We're gonna talk about what she's doing. And as we go through the book, we're learning more and more and more. If you've not already done so, I want you to go back. I want you to watch the previous video. Right? We're gonna put this in the end screen here as this video ends. Watch that one. If you've not gotten the book, let me go ahead and pull my my other screen. There it is. That's the book right there, right? The Entree MD Method. The Entree MD Method, right? Wonderful book. I cannot recommend it enough. I think it is a wonderful book, and we're going to spend more time going through it. And if you've got questions, put them in the comments, right? If you've got questions, drop us an email. And we'd be happy to answer those. This is a place where we educate, where we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. Thank you. We'll see you at the next video.